yeah, so this is, I think this is a really interesting study about land subsidence in the United Arab Emirates. For me, it was the first time that I actually read about subsidence issues in this region. So I'm really,
also.
yeah, yeah, okay, I'm really excited. So
Yes.
looking forward to it.
So my name is Konstantinos Lupasakis. I'm a professor at the National Technical University, and we're going to discuss large subsidence phenomena caused by the overexploitation of the aquifers in arid regions. That was the strange thing about those phenomena. So the study area is the Remah and the Al Wagan area next to Al Ain. First of all, let's talk a bit about the mechanism that causes large subsidence due to the overexploitation of the aquifers. When the groundwater draw down, we have a decrease of the groundwater pressure and an increase of the active earth pressures. So we have a reactivation of the consolidation mechanism and the generation of ground fractures. Actually, those phenomena can occur in normally consolidated formations, but also several times we have noticed this phenomena to take place in slightly over-consolidated formations also. Here are some pictures from Greece. This is a picture from Niki village, East Thessaly plain. You can see the differential displacements. Those displacements occur due to the fact that we have fault lines intersecting the bedrock formation, so we have a difference on the thickness of the sediments. That's why we have differential deformations. And those pictures are coming from Kalohori region next to Thessaloniki. In that area, we don't have faults on the bedrock, so we have evenly settled formations. But due to the excessive deformations, we can see that the seawater floods the area. This is seawater. It's next to the coastline. Now, let's go to Remah region. Remah region is located 43 kilometers east of Al Ain city. Al Ain city is next to the borders with Oman. It's the third bigger city of the Emirates. It's covered by sand dunes, disconnected with flat areas. They call them inert dunes, those flat areas. And the altitude of the area is ranges from 80 to 200 meters above sea level. At the east, we can identify two mountains, the Jamal Hafid and the Al Hamaj mountain, those are covered mainly by limestone formations, so they are the main source of water for the region. A few things about the geology. We can identify the Barzaman formation. It's fluvial sedimentary rock, mainly with conglomerates. It's 200 meters thick. On top of it, we can see the Healy formation. It consists of sandstone, siltstone, mudstone, silty clays, and practically this is the formation that subsides due to the groundwater overexploitation. And on top of this formation, we have the Ribal Khali formation. It's a sand dune formation. It does not exist everywhere. We cannot see this formation in the locations between the dunes. Only the dunes belong to this formation. Underneath the sedimentary rock, we can find limestone intercalated with anhydrite, dolomite, and mudstone. This is the formation that forms the mountains over here. So, if we examine the hydrogeological setting of the site, we can identify 4 different hydrogeological units. We have the carbonate aquifer, occupying the micropermeable carbonate formations along the borders of the Oman, the mountains. We can identify the western gravel aquifer along the foothill of the mountains. We can see the sand dune aquifer covering most of the Emirates. Actually, this is the aquifer that we have examined. And the coastal aquifer at the coastal subhas. So the study area is located at the sand dunes aquifers. we can identify an unconfined aquifer occupying the coarse grain layers. And this aquifer is laterally fed by the carbonate aquifers. 50% of the agricultural activity of the country takes place there. We have identified more than 500 active farms. The annual water discharge is almost 250 million cubic meters. And although the water is not suitable for irrigation, actually it's the only source of irrigation water, so they have to pump it out. The average depth of the water table is between 52 and 67 meters. But unfortunately, at the narrow study area, the overexploitation of the aquifer has generated a huge depression cone, reaching down to the depth of 120 meters. Here you can see the contour lines presenting the depression cone. As you can see, the depression cone evolves. That's the contour line of 105 meters, and as you can see, in a few years after, it was expanded. You can see it's steep, so we have a dynamic condition there. The depression cone extends gradually, and we think that it's the main cause of the subsidence in the area. The field observation. Actually, when we visited the site, I was very anxious about what I was going to face, because usually when you are not working on an arid environment, you can see a lot of damages due to the large subsidence. But I was about to work in an area covered by sand, so I was not sure what I was going to face. Actually, I was lucky because I saw that they have made several constructions, fences, in order to set limits to their properties. So you can see several leaning fracture walls due to the subsidence. Buildings appear cracked. You can see this here was actually collapsed, and it was reconstructed. You can see several well casings protruding from the ground due to the subsidence. And this was really interesting. Pillars dislocated, and the wires were tensioned due to the differential displacements taking place in the site. So, in order to study the phenomena, unfortunately, we couldn't identify any geotechnical data for the site, because it's an agricultural area and they don't have any geotechnical drills there. And we used interferometric data, Sentinel-1 images provided by ESA, and we used a data set of 37 Sentinel-1 SLC images, covering the period between February 2015 and May 2019. And we processed them by using persistent scatter interferometry technique, PSI technique. You can see here the footprint of the images and the area under investigation. The results were amazing, although we were not expecting so clear images because of the sand. There were several constructions there, fences, roads, so we were able to get a good density of persistent scatterers. You can see that we have a density of about 4,000 PSs per square kilometer. And the maximum, in total, the entire area was covered by 3,400,000 PSs. This was a very good density for us. And I saw that the maximum subsidence rates can be identified at the center of the depression cone. And there were about up to 4 millimeters per year. Here we have here at the Al Sadd city, we have displacements up to 10 millimeters per year. And so this is the extent of the depression cone. It extends for 25 to 30 kilometers. We have constructed some cross sections. You can see that the western part of the depression of the deformed area appears steeper. That means that we expect deformations to expand towards this direction. Here some pictures I added today in my presentation to show you the damages that we recorded inside the Al Sadd city. They're not so intensive, but we expect them to grow in the future. Aiming to identify the quality of the assessment proposed, we estimated the standard deviation, and we saw that the standard deviation is about 2 millimeters per year. So the measured displacements have an accuracy of 40 plus minus 2 millimeters per year. And as you can see, the values, the maximum values of the standard deviation can be identified at the perimeter of the depression cone. So our study area is safe, and we can say that our results are accurate. We combined the piezometric contour lines with the deformations acquired by the INSAR data, and we saw that there is they coincide in a good way. You can see the extent of the depression cone and the deformed area. So the depression cone actually at the moment extends towards this direction, and so we expect the deformations to do the same thing in the future. So this is an area that it's going to be affected by the deformations in the near future. You can see also here a correlation between the groundwater drawdown and the deformations as estimated by the INSAR technique at the vicinity of the water monitoring well 60. This is somewhere here in this part of the study area. This is monitor well. In this slide, you can see the groundwater discharge between 2013 and 2019. You can see that the depression cone extends towards the west, as I told you before. So, as I have already told you, we expect the deformations to grow to this direction. And coming to my conclusions, the absence of known tectonic activity in the area makes us believe that the main cause of subsidence is the overexploitation of the aquifer. I think it's reasonable. So there is not any other alternative sources of fresh water in the study area, so they have to keep pumping the water out. So we don't have any propositions for mitigation, and the only thing they can do, they can avoid the affected area because there is not any other sources of water, so they have to keep pumping it out. And also, a general conclusion is that the repeat pass satellite SAR interferometry can provide substantial information, even in this kind of areas. And thank you for your attention. And this is the team, the study team. The study was conducted within the limit of the PhD thesis of our friend here. So, and it was funded by the Water Authority of the Arab Emirates. Thank you very much.
So thanks. It's time for questions. Are there questions from the audience? Sorry, John's first.
Hi, thank you for the talk. I was just interested to know, do you know which algorithm was used for the interferometry? Is it something that you built in-house at the National Technical University of Athens, or is it coming actually from the Observatory of Athens or somewhere else?
Actually, the observatory beyond has an algorithm that produces this kind of images. It's a basically based on the PSI technique. I don't know a few things about the algorithm. I'm not the expert on that thing. But yes, we have a special algorithm for that.
Okay, thank you.
So I just wonder, have you also looked into the historical satellite data from ERS and VSAT to check when the process started?
The process started, actually we used only Sentinel data. So we didn't use all the images, so we are not sure when they started. And we did that because the monitoring wells are new. They don't have a long time series of groundwater measurements. So we didn't have the time to look back in all the satellite images. But it's something that we intend to do in the future because there are several areas in the Emirates that seem to be affected by this kind of phenomena. So we want to see if we have subsidence there also. And also we are planning to examine the coastal area to see if those very beautiful constructions they have done appear any deformations. You can understand what I mean. Yeah. Abu Dhabi. And
Thank you. Have a question?
It's a very basic question. I think you showed, your slide said that the water was too salty for irrigation, and still they pump all this water. So what is the use?
they irrigate with that. They don't have any other source of water. It's an arid climate.
But do they treat the water, desalinate them?
They choose the right plants to cultivate there.
So in a way, it's not too salty for irrigation because they use it.
They use it because they have no other sources of water, but they cannot cultivate everything they want. They can cultivate only specific kind of plants because the rest are not cannot stand the temperature and the lack of water.
Thank you.
Of proper water. Actually, there are some sabhas, as they call them. There are some layers with salt inside the formations. Although the water, it's not bad originally, it's rain water. When it enters the formation, it gets too salty.
Thank you. Could it be some kind of geological feature or structure in the western part of the cone that restrict the subsidence?
What? I cannot understand you.
Because your subsidence is mostly in the eastern part of the cone of drawdowns of the abatement?
No.
Not at the west?
You mean, let me see what.
Yeah.
Here.
Could it be some feature, some geological feature or
No,
structure?
I think it's it takes some time from the deformations to start evolving. So you have to have a specific drawdown of the groundwater, and it takes some time to see the deformations. It's not immediately after the water drops down. And don't forget that this is just a contour line, so maybe if you see the monitoring wells, they don't extend clearly to the entire region. Those are not the monitoring wells. Sorry, let me find the proper slide. Sorry. Here. Here, you can see that we have monitoring wells here only. So if we add some monitoring wells here, we can have a better picture about the extent of the depression cone. So we need more data, but they don't have so many data sources there. We don't have geotechnical data. We don't have old measurements of the groundwater level. They just started monitoring the site. We hope in the future that we will get more data and be able to study them in a better way. But also, we don't have detailed information about the geological structure. So maybe.
So, you have a small question, Ramon?
No.
May I offer an alternative interpretation for your data?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what you see here is that the vegetation area has this very let's say horizontal east-west delineation, right?
Following the road, mainly.
Yes, a little bit south of the road,
Yeah.
and that is also what you see in your interferometric data. So I think basically what you're seeing is, for a great deal, is the subsidence due to the extraction of water by the vegetation itself. And I have two reasons for that, well, maybe three. So one is the delineation. So if you would go to your slide where you show your deformation.
But the groundwater level is 40 to 60 meters below the surface.
Yeah, well, I'll give you three reasons. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So you see here that the subsidence is now very much delineated by the location where you go from the vegetation to the sand, right? And if it would be the deeper layers, there would be no reason why there would be such a strong delineation. That's number one. Number two is that if you look at the roads, basically there's a road going in the middle of your field, you see that the subsidence rate is there less than the surrounding fields. So, and that is where there's a road, so there's no crop, right? So the crops themselves also use water, but on a very shallow part. So I think, and the third reason is that the main subsidence bowl due to the groundwater extraction is a little bit more to the west of the area where you see the subsidence here. So
Yeah,
I would consider the effect of the plants themselves extracting groundwater from the shallowest layers as well, probably it's not the only explanation, but I think that is very, yeah, I think there are reasons to believe that is
Actually, this aquifer is laterally fed by the limestones, so they don't have so much rainwater. The rain takes place on the mountain area, and the mountains feed the aquifer low down below the ground. So the groundwater level is 45, 60 meters, and here in this area it's 120 meters below the ground. So the road is just a narrow line of construction. It's not so wide to affect the deformations or so heavy. It's just a road on top of sand. They don't have big embankments or to construct the road. I don't know if the plants affect so much.
You can discuss further during
Yeah,
the break, right?
Okay.
Well, thanks a lot.
Thank you.